What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Fans FC, episode 17. Man, I can't honestly, it's kind of crazy to think we're at 17 already, right?
Yeah, it is. Especially the way things have been going. I mean, Jesus Christ, we're heading into an international break. Hot. A lot of stuff going on.
I mean,
Lot of footy.
MLS is not going to international break, but that's a story for another day. I do got my Costa Rica jersey on in honor of international window. I'm actually very, very excited for this international window. I don't know if you saw, but I was talking to one of our other friends that we work with and who is also Costa Rican. And we are very, very pumped for the new era that Costa Rican soccer is heading into. We have probably the deepest, not deepest, but like the most talented roster we've probably ever put out there on paper. So I'm super pumped for
And you guys
tomorrow
got
this
rid of
weekend.
that coach you hated, right?
Yeah, he was a bum. Right now, we have an interim head coach from Argentina, but we'll see how it goes. Either way, man, it's like a whole different roster now. It's crazy because like all the people that guy refused to call up are all now coming back. And now our roster, dude, I was telling people, I was like, if they would have put that roster out for the Gold Cup, they would have won that shit. Like, this is the same roster who beat USA in the World Cup qualifying. Like, I'm super pumped. A lot of super young talent and a lot of talent that got sent over to Europe that didn't even get called up because now we're getting to a point where we're pretty deep. I almost feel like we're at the same point USA was in 2019, 2020, after they didn't make the World Cup and they kind of reset and now they're in this new generation. I feel like we're like that, just a one generation, one World Cup behind. So like what USA's World Cup was this past 2022, what I feel like is ours is going to be in 2026, and then 2030 is going to be like the real one that it can like make a deep run. But Copa America is coming up next year, so that could be a good test, which I'm also super excited for.
Yeah,
So
it's always
going to
a
be
fun watch.
here in the US too. But let's go to our first topic of the day, which is probably the title of the video. And basically, we're coming down the final stretch of MLS season. 10 games left, 8 games left for some people, 10 for others, around 8 to 10 games left for some teams. And we're kind of coming down the stretch and we kind of know who's who now. And the playoff race is getting super tight. But we're going to talk about the playoff race as it gets closer to decision day. But let's kind of go from like, I guess like we're about the final third of the season, or just over the final third of the final quarter probably of the season. Who do you think can win it all at this point? Like, who are your favorites?
Well, I hate to say this wearing an Inter Miami shirt, but let's be honest, if they get their asses into the playoffs, especially, let's say they just go on a tear, they're playing a lot of teams. They only have one out of conference game remaining, and that is this Saturday. We're recording on a Thursday, so we'll be at that game on Saturday versus Kansas City. So other than that, I mean, these are all taking points away from teams that are in playoff contention. Yes, some teams are probably untouchable at this point. So like, let's just say for fun, if we take Miami out of the equation, you have to, Cincinnati's been struggling a little bit. They're a great team. Not going to be surprised if they hold out and get that Supporters Shield, but they're a team that in a knockout playoff format, they can definitely just lose that one game. So I wouldn't really bet on them. It's funny because aside from Miami right now, there's really not a team that's been dominating. You look at the top of each conference and there's slip ups pretty much consistently. The only one that I think has been surprising, at least to me, is Orlando City. They've been playing probably the best out of anybody in terms of just form, getting points. So they're a surprise. They're at third in the table. So they'll be competitive. Um, Another surprise is the fact that St. Louis is still top of the table, even with their
Dude,
struggles. They win, they
they're
lose, they win, they lose. So they're beating the bad teams that they're supposed to beat. And there are some bad teams in that conference. And before I get to
have
you, I will mention that.
only two draws. That's insane.
It is wild. But yeah, it's just very interesting. Seattle is another one. I mean, they you look at their form and you look at their matches, and it's not super impressive, but yet they're in second place in the West. Um, so it's very interesting. There's really not a single team. I mean, Cincinnati's the one that jumps out at you when you look at the overall table, but even they have been struggling recently with certain games. As for the wooden spoon, I think Toronto have woken up. Inter Miami are obviously going to start climbing the table. It seems pretty obvious that Colorado are
Your
the worst
team.
team in the league. I
That's
know,
your
right?
team.
And I've been saying that. I've been saying it for a while. I don't think I've ever picked them. Maybe a draw. Maybe I picked the draw. I don't know. So I think that one's a pretty obvious one. Um, so yeah, that's my take. I think if Miami gets in, everybody should be scared of Miami. If not, then it's just based on form and how these teams have been playing. It's really anybody's game to win this MLS Cup.
All right, so let's give me your favorites to get out of each conference, and then your dark horse for each
How
conference, and then
many?
give me
Just
the
one
winner.
to get out of each
Yeah,
conference?
just one. Yeah, and then your dark horse to get out of that conference.
Well, for the East, I'm gonna pick Miami. My dark
Really,
horse. My
not even
dark
sure if they're
horse.
gonna get out, get
I
into
think
the
I think
dance.
I think the LA game was a decider. We'll talk about that before we move on, but let me just give you my pick. So Miami, and I'm gonna say my dark horse is gonna be. I mean, is there really a dark horse if you get into the playoffs? A lot of these teams, it's really separated by a few points. But I'm gonna say Nashville. I mean, they're sitting seventh right now. Um, they they performed really well in the League's Cup, making it to the final. They were the first team to actually hold Inter Miami to anything but a win. I mean, I guess if you want to, argue about going to penalties in the League's Cup final, but so that's something to be said. They have Hani Mukhtar on their team, so they're my dark horse for the West. The West, that's I think a much tougher one. I would go ahead and say I think Seattle. I think they're gonna wake up playoff time. I actually think that their fans are gonna show out, and I think it's gonna be an interesting one because I think St. Louis been wishy washy. Seattle, like if anything, they've been drawing a lot. I guess you could say. LA, I think just because they had it last year, I don't know. I don't feel like it's easy to defend in the MLS. Um, Dark horse for the Western Conference. I would say Minnesota. Minnesota, if they're playing well, they they can surprise some people.
I can
Um,
see that.
yeah, it seems like Pookie has actually been pretty decent recently. Um, he's starting to get used to the team. Um, and Reynoso's just been great. So I mean, as long as that link up, if they're playing well, they're a tough team to beat as well.
All
But
right,
it's
so
funny.
for
I don't
me,
want anyone to think, by the way, before you go ahead, because
yeah.
I know it's funny that I'd pick two teams that are in seventh place right now as dark horses, but
Honestly,
I
I
do
didn't even
mean
think
it.
about that.
I need to point that out because there are people out there who'd be like, "You fucker, you're doing that on purpose. You just went to seven and said that's a good pick."
No, man. See, my I'll give my dark horse. My my dark horse for the East is Columbus Crew.
I
I
was thinking them
love
too.
Columbus. I like Wilfred Nancy in the system he's deployed. Now they bring in Diego Rossi, former LAFC DP, has came back to the MLS. It does suck to see them lose Zelarayan to Saudi Arabia, It's a shame they couldn't find a way to keep him on the team, but it seems like they still haven't lost a step even with him being gone. I I like Columbus. I like Columbus to really sneak in.
Yeah,
I really
the
like their
reason I
team.
didn't
I think
have
they got.
the reason I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say quickly the reason I didn't have them as a dark horse is because I thought that I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? I don't really think they're much of a dark horse. I feel like people know that they're a good team, so that's why I didn't go for that particularly.
Yeah, I think I'm considering it a dark horse. 'Cause I would say most people wouldn't think they would get out. I don't know. I mean, I like your Nashville pick. I think that's not a bad pick because Nashville's proven that that's a team that's built for tournament settings. A team that can really grind out victories and win
Yeah,
1-0s. Like
I
those are
liked it
teams
in the
that
Leagues
like
Cup. Exactly. They were set up. They were probably. I mean, there were teams that came out against Miami and they looked good, but I don't think there was a team that was able to consistently hold their game plan and execute it correctly for 90 minutes in both games. If you're if we're being honest, in the Leagues Cup final too, they held us to
yeah,
90 minutes as well. There, admirably. It took and it took a freaking wonder. Like I think that was his best goal so far for Miami. Um,
yeah.
that's something worth asking you about before eventually as well, because it's already what
We'll
10
go through
goals,
the end of
11
the
goals.
season,
So yeah,
say
well
which is best.
that'll be yeah, exactly. That'll be fun to talk about later on um when it comes down to it. But yeah, that was definitely my favorite so far. It's just such an incredible strike. I mean, he had five people on him and he still hits it. So Nashville, yeah, I like the way they play. Hani Mukhtar is a weapon. Even when the team Nashville's not exactly playing great, he's always dangerous. You just can't count them out. Columbus, another
Yeah,
good pick. That's why I say it's hard.
yeah.
It's
I
hard.
think the thing though with
Anybody's team, in
Columbus
my opinion.
is that I'm noticing it now, and it is hard to call them a dark horse because they're only 2 points from second place. But I'm just going based off the records now, and maybe some people don't have them coming out, but I just feel like they have a 17 goal differential, which is really, really high for 45 points, 13, 6, and 8. So I'm gonna say they're my dark horse. As for my winner out of the East, as much as I want Miami to win it, I think it's Cincinnati's year. I think Cincinnati gets it. I think Miami has been running on a bunch of luck when it's come to these tougher opponents in MLS, and I think eventually we're going to run out. I think the Cincinnati play when Cincinnati played Miami in the Open Cup semifinal. I think Cincinnati was the better team. I think this past week against LAFC, even though Miami won 3-1, LAFC to me choked that game. LAFC should have put that game away. They
I think
had
Bowanga choked that
so
game.
yeah, Bowanga got cocky and he didn't want to
Bowanga
pass the
and
ball.
I
Yeah,
was watching a video. I don't know exactly who it was, but as soon as this was said, I was like, "Brilliant! That's exactly what I'm thinking." And then I saw, which was a more popular take on ESPN, but what I saw was on YouTube. This guy was watching it. He saw the Bowanga. You know what I'm talking about. And if you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. The play where it's like a 3-on-2 looks like for LA. Bowanga is running down the middle. Vela's wide open on the right side, and he does not pass it to him. He just decides to take the shot, and Vela was pissed. He
and
was
a tough
pissed
shot.
off, and it was a tough shot. And um, the guy reacting to it just went, you know what? That's a classic moment of everybody's watching. We're in LA. We got all the stars here. We got Messi here. The world is watching this game. I'm gonna have my moment. And I was like, exactly. That's what he was thinking in that moment. And then I heard again, I wish I knew so I can give credit. But I think it was like on ESPN or something like that, ESPN FC. They are interviewing former player and analyst. Um, and he was like, he was like, you should show your kids the highlights of that game if they're learning like how to play the game, and say, this is the difference between Messi and everybody else. That Messi plays to win. He's never looking. It's not his goal to score or get an assist. He just wants to win the
Ronaldo
game.
would have took that shot.
Bouanga was on the field to score, not to win. So players like Bouanga, they want to score. Players like Messi, they want to win, and that's the difference. If the goals come to you, they come to you. And it's a little simplified, but I mean, you just see it there because Messi, yeah, he does do the incredible. There are situations where if Messi decided to just say, you know what, screw it, I'm not going to pass, he probably would bang in those certain shots. But that doesn't that it goes against it. So I think those 2 points really captured how that game went. It was very individual mindset from LAFC that cost them a lot of big chances. And then Bouanga just got rattled after that. I thought he was just got nervous and he was like, shit, now I gotta fucking like, there's a good chance and Vela's mad at me. I mean, like, I don't know. He seemed like he was getting taken by the moment.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too deep into the game, but I'll just end it here of just like that's a pretty rare game from Bouanga too. That guy is actually super lethal in front of net. I mean, he has 25 goals in like all competitions this year. I mean, he's leading the league in goals by all competitions. So very off game for him. And yeah, I mean, he missed wide open opportunities. So because of that, I think eventually Miami's just going to run out of luck. I think we've been on a great streak, and I think it's destined for them to make the playoffs. I don't know how long it can hold on to, and I just feel like Cincinnati, just a team top to bottom, is just going to be cleaner and more clinical and just going to win the game. I mean, even that Cincinnati game, they took out all 3 DPs at the second half of the game. Like, what are they doing? They're not going to make that mistake again. I mean, they took off Acosta, Vasquez, and Bupenza, all 3 DPs off the field at like the 60th, 70th minute of that game, thought they had it in the bag, and then they came back and won, and now they went into the extra time without their star players. So I think they're not going to make this again. I think they're just going to be too clinical win. Now let's go to the West. My team coming out of there, I still think it's LA. LA is just too good to me. Like they're too, like after CCL, they went on a little bit of a downturn, and that's what kind of dropped them in the rankings. But we all know the quality that they have at the end of the day, and that's a team that can win. That's another team that can win in tournament fashion. I mean, they won the MLS Cup. They went to the final in the CCL that they should have won if they didn't like completely choke it. It's just I just see LA getting out of there. It's just a matter if they don't, kind of choke in the moment. They almost did last MLS Cup, honestly, until Bale pulled out an incredible header.
They're definitely the safest pick. I thought the West was harder to pick than the East. It's definitely more wide open.
Yeah.
You feel like anybody who's in the playoff picture right now can beat anybody.
I think St. Louis is severely overachieving. I think St. Louis is severely
correct. But like I said, they're winning games that they should win. It's going to be tougher because when they're in the playoffs, they're all deserved to be there.
They clearly can't grind out ties because, I mean, you're talking about 15, 2, and 10. That's
not how they play, though. If you watch their games, they're very fast and flowing. They move a lot. They're either going to be punching you in the gut or getting punched. It's one of those. They take punches and they throw punches.
I don't think they're going to be good next year. I think they're going to have an LAFC.
They have a very good goal differential, but they're scoring very highly. Also conceding more goals, 5 more goals than LAFC, 6 more goals than Seattle. So you're seeing they're very much, even teams like Dallas and Minnesota, who are 9th and 7th respectively, allowing 30 goals and 32 goals. So that's just how they play. So it's gonna. I don't think that's gonna help them in the playoffs. Again, they're a new team. You got to assume it's gonna that the lack of experience is gonna get to them. But the fan base is gonna definitely be. I think they're gonna and them getting that advantage with the home seed. That'll be tough for teams.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to decline next year. I think you might see something similar to like Austin. I think they just overachieved and people are going to expect it. But then again, I could be wrong. But
as for my dark horse, bad thing. I just want to, before you mention the dark horse, I just want to say that's not necessarily a bad thing because I think St. Louis did it right this year. They did exactly what an expansion team should do.
They did a lot of things right. Yeah.
The stadium, the team, just building a team that could play and be it, and was a team early, getting
building
it
the team
early, getting a fan base really passionate and excited about every game. So even if they do fall off a little bit, they put themselves in a good spot. So it's not going to be for long. They're not going to be bottom feeders in the conference like Colorado.
So as for my dark horse, I think I'm gonna agree with you on Minnesota United. I think they showed a lot in a tournament setting and Leagues Cup. And that's one good thing about Leagues Cup that I actually really enjoy is that it kind of gives you an idea of who's going to perform well in that kind of setting.
Preview. Yeah.
And I thought Minnesota had some very big wins. I mean, a win against Toluca. Who knows what would happen with that Nashville game if they didn't get a red card in the 20th minute?
Definitely hurt the game. They're not built to play like that.
Yeah. And Minnesota's trying to catch up from their slow start. Like you said, now with the big transfer with Pukki coming in, who seems to be linking really well for Nosa, who's also back on injury coming back from injury after missing half the season.
It took them a while to gel, but that's why I like them as my dark horse, because they're really starting to mesh and they're starting to kind of feel each other out. And the team around them's not horrible.
And I don't want to say he's underrated, because I don't think he's necessarily underrated in MLS circles, but I just feel like in general it's a name nobody really brings up. But I really think Emmanuel Reynoso is one of the best players in the league. That dude has so much class. That dude is so good. And then if he can continue to link up with Pukki, oh man, the offense is going to be really good. So I'm with you on Minnesota. I think they can, in a tournament setting, they can potentially, go on a run. I mean, at the end of the day, the spread is not that hard. You're talking about, what is this? An 8-point spread from 2 to 9. 8 points. 8-point spread. Minnesota 7th with 36. They're only 5 points behind Seattle.
And you have Austin
and they have a game in hand. They have 2 games in hand on Seattle.
Basically, everybody except Colorado is sniffing the playoffs still.
Because mind you, Minnesota has 28 games. So not Minnesota. Seattle has 28 games. So Minnesota has 2 games in hand and only 5 points behind Seattle. So I think the West is going to be super interesting. Almost wish Miami was in the West. I feel like
with the travel, you sure about that? I don't know. I do like 10 p.m. games though. That's fun to watch.
I mean, think about it. Nashville has 40 points. That 40 points put them in the second place in the East. Or third place in the West.
I said, it's more wide open. It really is. Anybody can beat anybody in those playoff spots, and there's other teams that probably will end up in those playoff spots that aren't right.
Now the play-in spot is wide open between Montreal and down. That's pretty wide open. I think Miami is going to get in there. I think it's destined. I think it's fate. I think it's going to happen.
They're going to at least get into the playoffs, but that's what it's going to be interesting.
So yeah, so let's get our final. So I have Cincinnati against LAFC, and I'm going to go
Miami versus
Cincinnati.
Seattle. You go Cincinnati. Okay, you say you really.
I think Cincinnati wins the whole thing,
and I say it's Miami versus Seattle in the final. And if I'm picking Miami to get to the final, Messi ain't losing in a cup final. I know it's a bold pick, but I got to commit to it. I said I thought about it, and I said what?
Treble. It's the treble.
Whoa, now don't count your chickens before they hatch. I know. Wait, I kind of just did because I said Messi ain't losing the cup final. Fuck me. All right, I'll leave guys.
I mean, we're assuming that they win the U.S. Open Cup, which is to me, it's a lock. Houston's not beating them.
It should be. It really should be. The season's already a success, but it'll be a fucking resounding success if that hits. But yeah, that would be crazy. Treble. So I'm predicting. I am predicting the Inter Miami treble. So you heard it here first, I guess.
I tell you what, that is so MLS though. To be the worst team in the league, the first half of the season, and then just to win a fucking treble. That is
wild.
Something so unique. That's something so unique to MLS. It's honestly kind of awesome. The fact that that's even possible. Let's just say that is pretty sick. But so I got Cincinnati. I will say this: if Miami does make it to the final, no one's beating them. I don't care who it is.
Especially
the only team in the West that could beat them would be LA. That's the only team that could.
We've seen it. They convert their chances. They're going to make it really.
They're just a better team. I think LA is just a better team. That better midfielders. That better. I don't know if they have better defenders, but I think LA is just a better team. I think they're
But hey,
more
come
lethal.
playoff time, you know what? It's going to be interesting to see how this team looks, assuming they want to put Gregor back into the lineup. But
Yeah.
that's a conversation for another day.
All right. So let's move on to everybody's favorite part, the rapid fire predictions for match day. That says 30. Is it match day 30?
That I did not change. I don't know if I changed that. I don't remember.
Let's confirm. Hold
MLS
up.
always has it correct, though. You taught me that, so.
Match day 31. There we go.
See, it's funny how I changed the date and I changed the episode number on the Google Doc, but nah, I don't want to change the match day.
Yeah. All right. So
Whatever.
match day 38. My God. Match day 38. Match day 31 predictions. Let's get into it. Going to share screen here. And honestly, guys, Adam, do you actually have the records for last week? We've kind of just completely lost track of our records for the
so
entire
here's the deal.
season.
I was actually gonna make a comment on that. I have it all. The records are safe in notes. I'm keeping track every time, but they're not updated. They're like 4 weeks behind. So at this point, after like the next week's games, I'm gonna update it, and I'm probably just gonna do the same thing and let it ride for another 4 weeks until or 5 weeks until the season's over or whatever. Not 5 weeks, but because they're gonna smash.
Well, at least just we don't have to add them all up, but just like whatever our last.
I
week
have
was.
them. Yeah, I have them. Last week,
it's probably too much to do last week right now.
Yeah. Let's just put it like this.
Don't worry about it.
I did a preliminary check. We were both under 500 for sure. Because there's a lot of ties and stuff. We're both.
Right, so we're gonna start. We're gonna give the records for today's predictions next week of how we did today. So I know we've been keeping track of it. We just lost track of the records and everything. Just kind of
the numbers I don't have, but the picks are all. Every pick is listed, and it's not like the results are hidden. So. They're out there. They're out there. Maybe there's one of you out there who wants to get a shout out, who's been watching every episode, but can just go. I
will say though, picking MLS is a fucking nightmare. It is so hard. Hey, maybe after this we start picking. I don't know, Prem games or something. I don't know, Europa League. Who knows? But
we're gonna have to figure something out. But that is, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's get into the picks.
All righty then. All right, so the first game is going to be DC United versus San Jose Earthquakes. DC United minus 130, San Jose plus 320, with the draw being a plus 280. Who do you got, Adam?
Oh man!
By the way, I have the last 5 games for both teams, so if you want me to, I can rattle them
up. All right, go for it. I got them up too.
I got them up already.
Yep. Go for it. Give it.
Left is the oldest, right?
Left is the oldest. Right is the newest.
All right. So they drew, loss, win for DC United. So 3 losses, a draw, and a win most recently. And then San Jose Earthquakes have a win, loss, and then a draw last game.
This is a tough trip. So if I'm being honest, I'm gonna say DC. I don't think they're a great team, but they're vying for a playoff spot really hard right now. I mean, Kansas City is as well, but or not Kansas City, San Jose. I get them confused a lot. San Jose, but that's a long trip. It could easily be a draw, but I'm gonna go.
Is that a straight line? Is that a straight line for the USA?
I don't know.
Damn near. But I'm gonna go draw here. I'm gonna go the plus 280 draw. I think San Jose is the better team.
If I get up, it's because I'm killing a moth, but I'm fully involved in this, okay?
Okay, I got you. All right, so I'm going with the draw here. I think San Jose has the better team. but I think you're right. The travel's going to be tough. So I'm going to go draw here.
All right.
Next game, Inter Miami versus Sporting Kansas City. Inter Miami plus 115, Sporting KC plus 200, with the draw being a plus 270. So this is a tough one to pick because Inter Miami by far has the most players on international duty. I believe Inter Miami has 9 players on international duty.
Yeah, it's a record for the club.
Sporting KC has 1 player on international duty. So this is going to be really interesting to see how Inter Miami sets this up and how they actually handle all these players being gone. I'm going to go with Inter Miami win here because at the end of the day, even though Inter Miami has 9 players gone on international duty, even with all those players gone, I still like the squad to win this. Sporting KC is still one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, I'm listening. I can hear you.
We can pause it for a second.
No, it's good. This is kind of funny.
Okay. All right.
I don't fucking know where it is, but I got it. It just
all right. I'm going Inter Miami win here. I think it's the easy pick. I think Sporting KC is just not good enough, and I think even with all those weapons gone, Inter Miami still has enough firepower.
Yeah, Inter Miami have been playing well. You know, it's not just Messi and the other 2 Barca amigos that are making this tick. You know, it's
which are still going to be here.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing people don't realize. I mean, Alba
and 2 of your young DPs are still going to be here.
Yeah, exactly. So even without Messi, Inter Miami, especially at home, I'm curious to see how the crowd's going to be knowing Messi's not there. But yeah, I'm also going to go Miami.
All right. Now, next game, Minnesota United versus New England Revolution. Minnesota United minus 115, New England Revolution plus 270, with a draw being a plus 280. I'm going to go Minnesota at home right now. Obviously, I just had them as my dark horse to come out of the West, and they continue to improve. So I'm going to go Minnesota here. And let me rattle off their last 5 games real quick. Minnesota has drawn 1, draw 1, draw. And then New England, second in the East right now, win, loss, win, draw. So
this is a really good game.
This is a good matchup.
Yes, this is actually a really good matchup, but this is one of those where I think I would pick based on the home team, just because I think these 2 teams are very good and it's a pretty good matchup. So because Minnesota's at home, I'm going to pick Minnesota.
By the way, I think you're right about FOTMob. It's like acting super weird right now.
It's fucked up right now. Not just me, right?
It's
like giving me warnings and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm going to switch over to trusty old Google here.
That's why if you have the table up and you just do like all MLS, it just has the form. You don't have to click on teams. Like you just scroll.
Yeah, but it's just going fucking black on me. I don't know. It's acting weird. All right. So we both got Minnesota here. All right. So now we're going to go Portland Timbers versus Los Angeles FC. Portland plus 180, LA plus 130 as the home favorite. I mean, the away favorites, and a draw at a plus 260. I'm going to go LAFC win here.
Yeah, I agree with the odds makers. It's not often you see them pick an away favorite, but they're doing it for a reason. Portland have not
LAFC
been good this
win,
year.
draw, win, loss. And then Portland 12th in the West, win, loss, win, draw. All right, next, LA Galaxy versus the St. Louis City. LA is minus 120, St. Louis plus 260, with the draw being a plus 310. So I think LA Galaxy is actually getting better, and I wouldn't be surprised if they sneak into the playoffs. I think they're progressively getting better. And like we talked about earlier, St. Louis only has 2 draws in the season. They don't know how to pull out draws, and in away matches, you have to be able to pull out a draw. You can't just keep on winning at home. So I'm gonna go LA with the win here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. This is just the type of match you look at the season St. Louis had, and this is the kind of match where you see them losing.
Yeah, so LA is win, loss, win, win, draw. St. Louis is win, win, loss, win, loss. All right. So next game, we got a New York derby. New York City FC versus New York Red Bulls. New York City FC plus 105. New York Red Bulls plus 250 with the draw being a plus 230. So this is
I love me a good
the battle of
old New York derby.
Yeah, so it's the 2 teams bottom dwellers of the Eastern Conference, 12th and 13th place respectively. But I'm going to go New York City here. I think New York City has gotten a little bit better and progressively better, had a decent summer transfer window. They brought back Maxi Morales and added a couple other pieces in the attack. New York Red Bulls, they just don't know how to score goals. They just run like chickens with their heads cut off. They have so much like athleticism, but no way to really tame it and actually put together a real technical
their
plan.
fan base
So I'm
is
gonna
starting to
go.
get annoyed about it too.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go New York City FC here for the win.
And I will agree with you. New York Red Bulls. I mean, if you messy people out there watch the New York versus Miami game, that's kind of the New York of late. That's how they've been. It wasn't just Messi making them look like that. They can't score.
So New York City's last 5 game is loss, 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 win, draw. New York Red Bulls is loss, win, loss, loss, loss.
It all sounds terrible.
All right. And that's it. We got a short week because of the international window. So, yeah, those are our picks for
Miami
match day.
To play. But, yeah, no, we're behind on games.
I thought that I did think that was a little odd. It kind of threw me off for a second because of the the shortened week. But, yeah, because of the international window, we don't have a ton of games. But that is it for match day 31.
And I'll tell you what, that means I'm definitely going to have
better odds.
And I have no excuse to not have the fucking picks next time.
Yeah, and we should have better odds to have a better record. I mean, what was that, like 5 games? I want to say.
Watch we still fuck it up and we go 2-3.
Or 1-4 or something.
Oh, fuck.
0-5.
0-5, fuck it.
No, there's no way Miami's losing to Kansas City, so we're getting at least 1 win. I'm locking that in. So, all right.
But yeah, so there's a reason why we definitely, aside from the match day picks being short because there wasn't that many games, there's a reason we didn't talk too much about MLS. We spent a long time talking about it the last time out, and we have kind of planned this out. Some major thing to talk about in world football, or more specifically European football, and that is Champions League. We're going to close the show with that. But first, I definitely wanted to get your opinion on this because it was starting to bleed over into like, to the point where you're starting to hear about it in mainstream. Like you're hearing, Xavi, the coach of Barcelona, make comments on this shit. And first, I guess I can give you my opinion on it at the time and as it progressed. So what we're talking about is the shitty situation with the Spanish FA. For those of you not in the loop, after Spain won the Women's World Cup, president of the Spanish FA did a little forced kiss on the lips to one of the players. And how did it fucking survive, bro? How? I smashed it with a pillow and it just came out from the death. I'm shocked. I'm shocked, bro. That is wild. How did you survive? It just came out of nowhere. I'm done with you, though. Like, this is actually...
Adam's going to break his whole setup.
Okay, now we're really good. Like, it's really good.
He murdered him. There's live, not safe for work.
It came from the dead, man.
Not safe for kids. We just murdered something on live. Well, it's not live, but recorded. But all right, go with what you're saying.
So it was a little bit forced, and you know what? At the time, the player just said, "Hey, I didn't like that," and So it became a big deal because the president of the Spanish FA is kind of he's defending himself too hard, in my opinion. So this is how I saw the situation. It was wrong at the time. It was like, okay, why the fuck you're doing that? But it wasn't like, oh my god, this is like the most horrible thing in the world. This is ridiculous. This guy, And the player even said that. Player basically was like, yeah, I didn't like it. And that's it. But then everybody on the internet made a big deal about it. And then they were talking shit to the Spanish president. And instead of basically saying, you know what? I fucked up. That was kind of stupid. Didn't mean anything by it, but I fucked up. That was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. That's like their moment. He kind of was like being a dick about it. And because he was being a dick about it, now everyone's doubling down on him hard. So my opinion was he fucked up, but it didn't need to be this bad. He made it bad because now he's digging his feet in the mud and being like, fuck you, I ain't leaving. He's literally doing the Wolf of Wall Street. Like, I ain't fucking leaving. He's literally doing that. So it's so it rubs people the wrong way. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I didn't think it was like, was it wrong? Yes, but now it's fucking up all of Spain's FA right now, like really badly. So that was my take on it, is that it was wrong, but the Spanish, the president just made it worse by being a dick. Like he could have made this easier, but he had to be a bitch about it. And now that people are like, no, you got to fucking go, he's still being a bitch about it. So I think this could have been a lot easier, and this didn't have to be like a major story. But of course, it fucking is a major story because he wants to keep his job after being a dick. So that's how I see it. But you're in the world of Spanish football. You like that shit. So what do you think?
No, I think that shit was it was a fucked up situation, because it wasn't even just like the whole kiss thing, which is weird as fuck.
That's what I'm saying. Like, by itself, it was weird
let's
and
not
wrong.
get it twisted. That
But
is
it wasn't
weird.
like-
That is
but he
too
didn't do it
far.
like- yeah.
That is too far. I don't care what she said about it, because obviously she might feel in a way that, like, I don't want to like lose my spot on the national team, because Spain can be very regressive in a lot of ways. Not like the general people, but like the higher ups, the old people, that the old establishment can be like that. And there was no reason to keep, like, because he also like grabbing them on the ass and stuff too. Like there was multiple things that happened. It wasn't even just the kid. I know specifically there was a moment where he like grabbed him on the ass. Obviously the players didn't like him. Like when they were winning or something, they refused to high five him. It gets to a point where it's like, dude, just get rid of the guy.
Yeah,
Especially
exactly.
the Spanish women team is entering this era where they're about to be dominant for probably the next two World Cups. They're by far the best team that's out there. They were super strong. They were my pick to win the World Cup. They're a really strong team. You don't need this man. This manager, they're making it out to be like he's fucking Pep Guardiola. He's not.
Yeah, no, right? He's
like,
just the president of the FA.
Dude, this guy had way too much. This guy had way too much like leeway, and the fact that you're right that they doubled down on not firing him is ridiculous. So
and that's what made it worse. It's like him being basically like, "Fuck you, I did nothing wrong." It's like, you know what?
What do you mean?
People maybe would have actually, but do you think that people actually would have been more nicer to him if he had actually just said, "You know what, guys, you're right. That was fucked up. I was just excited. I really didn't mean anything by it." Do you think this wouldn't be a story right now?
Locker room.
Do you think?
He lost the locker room.
Do you think it'd be a story though if he just said that? Do you think he'd have more leeway and they'd give him a chance if he was like genuinely like,
no.
Yeah, I fucked up?
No, I think at the way society is right now, the fact that he even did that, and like I said, it was multiple things. It wasn't just like the one thing. I don't know all the exact details, but I know the grabbing the ass and then like just the flat out. That's just weird, and like I don't think that ever would have, like, no matter how much you apologize, like that's just, I think that was too far. And then I think also too, he lost the locker room. The players didn't want to play for him. They hated him. They didn't want to be around him. And then Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think the situation made it even worse when he's like, "I did nothing wrong," and then you have the federation saying that we're not going to fire him. Like that shit. That's when it got like super fucked. It was like, nah, man. Like that. That's like, it's like, come on, like just submit it. Like like even if you genuinely believe him, the players don't want him anymore, and that can cause an issue like for the following World Cup or the Women Euros and like things like that. Like you just look at Team USA with Greg Berhalter and the Gio Reyna thing and like how big of a shit show that is. And that's not even nearly as big as what
Yeah,
happened with the Spanish Federation.
that's a
You
good
just
point.
like you don't want to have that trauma and that controversy. Like you just get rid of the guy. And then his mom going on like hunger strike for 3 days. I'm
Oh
like,
my
you're
god, yeah,
delusional
that's when you
too.
lost
Like,
me.
get out of here. Like,
That's when you
come
lost
on.
me. It all made sense. So I feel like I guess in a way,
And
this is all like the right things happening because this piece of shit's not gonna he's
and
not gonna
and
survive
then
this because that's
and
really
I
what's
think it makes it worse too is because of the track record, the Spanish Federation and La Liga, even though they're two separate things like La Liga and the Spanish Federation, it's just right now that's just not a good time for that in Spain. So it's like the last thing you need is somebody like really doubling down on like something that I mean it's kind of the dude was doing it on live TV. That's the crazy thing. He's doing it on
Yeah.
live TV. So who knows what's happening behind closed doors? If this man doesn't give a fuck enough to do it on literally the World Cup, like what else could be going on? Like that, like this guy's got some fucking cojones if he's willing to do that on live TV.
Yeah,
Like
like I
that's
said, I think his reaction was what sealed the deal. This is like you really want to know the type of person that he is. You see the reaction and the fallout, and then you realize, yeah, this guy needs to go.
yeah,
So I
it's
think
just
we're
all
in agreement on that one,
scummy.
and it's all fucked up, and
Yeah.
hopefully he gets out of there quick. So, and speaking of quick, let's quickly move on to the story that everybody wants to hear about, and that
Drum
is
roll, please.
the Champions League. We need to get a soundboard, and I need to have the button.
Here, I got it. I got you. I got you.
No. Like you know what I mean.
There.
You know what I mean. I want the Champions opera singers.
The song, honestly, dude, that song gives me
I don't go.
goosebumps. Like,
I just want to,
it is by far. It's between
like,
that
come on. There's got to be a
and
way to
Monday
do this,
Night
right?
Football. That and Monday Night Football have like the best soundtracks for any like pregame tournament thing, like in all of sports. Like
Yeah, the two
Champions
songs
League
that people
and
know,
Monday Night Football.
or
Like
just like
those two.
NFL. Like I don't
Great.
even know like where it's from specifically. I just know it's NFL. But yeah, those are the two sounds that people know.
Da-da-dum,
Exactly,
ba-da-dum,
it's the people know
ba-da-dum.
the champions and da-da-dum, da-da-dum, and then that's it. That's it. Everyone knows that. It's just
Yeah.
it's great.
Which
So we
I
have
don't know if you knew this, but did you know the Champions League each verse is sung in a different language?
I did not know
I
that, but
didn't
I don't. It's not
I
something. It's not something I actually care for the words for. It's more like
no,
okay, I'm
I
watching
don't
a
know the
football game.
words. I
Well,
saw
yeah,
like on
yeah,
YouTube
yeah. But like I
something
never
and
paid
it's like,
attention to it
did you
even.
guys know that it's like 6 different languages in it? And I was like, that's actually makes it even like go even harder. But yeah, anyways, let's get into our we love predictions on this show,
Yeah, but now
obviously.
this
So
is some
we're
more beefier. It's not going to be as hard because we're just going to pick, unless it's
yeah.
the group of death, which we will get into.
So
There
we're
every
gonna
year
go
there's always a
through.
group of death, so we're going to go in group by group, like Julian said. If you
So
want to
yeah,
take
so let's start with Group A. So Group A, we have Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Copenhagen, and Galatasaray. So I'll kick it off to you. What do you see coming out of this group?
So I think this is an easier group to pick. Galatasaray in the Turkish league. I have a friend from Turkey, so I know the kind of shit they've been going through. Copenhagen, even though that league's not horrible, I don't rate them either because how they got here, they just barely scraped by a Polish team that nobody can pronounce except me and my mom, pretty much. If you want me to do it, I'll do it.
He'll do it.
Copenhagen, to get into the playoff or to get into the Champions League group stage, had to beat Rakov Czestochowa.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's it's in the middle of nowhere, if you're wondering. Not a big city. Good team though.
So
They've been good lately.
So let's go 1,
yeah,
2, 3, 4.
so it's got to be. I'm gonna go.
Because mind you, 3 makes Europa League. So we'll go 1,
Yeah,
2, 3, 4.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say for this, I'm gonna say Bayern first, Manchester United second, Galatasaray third, Copenhagen fourth.
Yeah, I'm pretty much entirely agree with you with everything there. Obviously, I think Bayern is just going to win the group. United still, I mean, now with Anthony gone with his whole domestic violence thing, even though I don't think he's been super
That's the worst.
even though I don't think he's been
Jesus Christ,
super productive.
We talked about enough shit stories. I didn't want to put that one in there, please. Like
no. But I'm just saying, like from a footballing perspective, you are missing a starter there. And just in general, I think Bayern's just better from top to bottom. So I got Bayern, United, Galatasaray, Copenhagen, just like you. Let's move on to Group B, where we have Sevilla, Arsenal, PSV, and Lens. So
I celebrated at work when they drew us into this group. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. It's like we're a pot 2 club. Which group do they really like? Come on, I was fearing being put into a group with Bayern. I was like, please, for the love of fucking God, don't do it. Please, we just got here. Don't do this to me. Don't put it. No, please. And then bam, we get put into the Sevilla group. Even though they're Europa League winners, they're struggling very much so.
Didn't Sevilla beat Arsenal in the Europa League?
I'm sure.
Who did you guys lose to in the Europa League?
Which year? Last year?
Last year.
I don't fucking know. I don't remember. It was depressing.
I thought Sevilla knocked you guys out. Yeah.
I don't think it was, but I blocked. I did. I actually just. It's gone. Like I don't fucking whatever. Europa League. We're back in the Champions League. I don't care about Europa League. Who the fuck cares about Europa League? It's a stupid tournament. I've never cared about that.
I get you into the Champions League.
But that's how it is, though. Yeah, exactly. So Sevilla, they're a struggling team. You know, you really, if looking at this, you have to pick Arsenal. You really do. Ramos, it's not going to change. Not going to change the game. I mean, I don't see Ramos being added to Sevilla and going, oh shit,
headers.
I mean, I guess,
Watch out.
You know, you're forgetting about our big Brazilian Gabriel on the left side of center back. He's a presence. He's a presence in the air as well. I've been enjoying him at center back. So for this one, this is a tougher one to pick the rest. So I would say Arsenal, PSV, Sevilla, and then Lens.
Yeah, so I think outside of Arsenal, I think the other 3 teams, that's a really good matchup. I think that's actually a really interesting group. I think obviously Arsenal wins it. You know, I thought if it wasn't for this if this was the same Sevilla team that won Europa League last year, they were locked for number 2. That team was really defensively sound. They really worked super well together. But then this past transfer season that we talked about last episode, they pretty much said, like, we got a garage sale. We need everything must go. And, you know, they had to get rid of Gabriel Montiel, which obviously went over to Nottingham. You know, they lost countless pieces. They were able to maintain some. And I still think they're going to be pretty good defensively. So I think Sevilla, man, to me, it's a really toss-up between Sevilla and PSV for that second Champions League spot to advance.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It really is.
I'm going to go Sevilla here. And I think PSV gets 3rd and Lens gets 4th. Lens did have a good season last year. I believe they were 2nd in Ligue 1. I want to say. Let me just double check that real quick. Yes, they were 2nd. They got 2nd place, only to PSG. So, yeah, I mean, they're no joke of a team either. So this is going to be really tough. But, man, PSV added a lot of weapons this summer. They added a lot. But then again, it's like, how much do you rate the French league versus the Dutch league, you know? But man, this is another like I said, this is interesting. I'm just gonna go Arsenal. I'm gonna go Arsenal, Sevilla, PSV, and Lens. I think I'm gonna stick with that. I think Arsenal advance. I think PSV goes to third, and Lens gets knocked out. But that's gonna be a good group.
That's fair. It's definitely gonna be a good group.
2, 3, and 4. You could swap those around, and I wouldn't be surprised.
That's definitely going to be a good group. So I'm gonna read out Group C because I want you to look at the picture I just sent in the chat. That is not safe for podcast about Anthony. It's really funny. Fucking A, man. R/soccer circle jerk is on fire. So Group C, this is actually a pretty fun one. We got Napoli, Real Madrid, Braga, and making their Champions League debut, a big, bolsterous Union Berlin. So I think they're going to come in there. They're feisty. I don't know if they're really going to get out of there. Besides going to a Europa League, I would put your Union Berlin in the Europa League spot, and I would say Madrid first, Napoli second, Berlin get the Europa League spot, and Braga fourth. Although Braga could just as easily get that Europa League spot as well.
Yeah, so I think we're pretty much in unison here. I'm going Real Madrid, Napoli, Braga, Union Berlin. That Real Madrid-Napoli game is going to be an awesome game. I think that's a really good matchup. I like to see that matchup. That's going to be obviously the defending reigning champs of Serie A last year after winning it for the first time in 30 years or something like that. They did just lose Chucky Lozano to PSV. Their starting winger, but I still think they're going to advance. So I'm going them second, Real Madrid first. Braga gets in. Union Berlin, they haven't made it in Lord knows how long. So, I don't think
they're Champions League debutants.
Oh, this is forever.
Union Berlin, it's their first ever Champions League.
How it would be great if they made it to Europa League, but
they weren't even in the Bundesliga 3-4 years ago. I mean, it could have been a little bit longer than that. The COVID kind of tends to screw with your sense of years.
Yeah. So yes, you had pretty much the same, right? Real Madrid, Napoli, Braga, Union Berlin.
I said you could pretty much either way, but I actually picked Union Berlin for Europa League. I think they're a pretty good team. I think just because they're not Bundesliga, it's not like they have Bundesliga history or even any Champions League history. So it's easy to underestimate them, but I think they're better than they people think.
All right, let's go to Group D, which I think is also another pretty good group here. You got Benfica, which is a really good squad this year. Inter, Red Bull Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. I think Real Sociedad's a really strong team, so is Benfica. Inter's definitely going to win the group. I think Inter's just solid. I mean, obviously they made it to the final last year. I think they're going to win it. I think that second and third, Red Bull Salzburg is going to get last. I think that's just going to happen.
I agree with you.
Now that Benfica Real Sociedad game is going to be a really good matchup, but I'm probably going to go Real Sociedad over Benfica. I think Benfica gets bounced to Europa League. So I'm going Inter, Real Sociedad, Benfica, and Red Bull Salzburg.
I'm similar. I'm actually going to say Benfica goes through instead of Sociedad, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're correct. Salzburg last, Inter winning that group.
All right, let's go to Group E. Now, this is a good group here, man. Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, Lazio, and Celtic. Man, that's a tough one. I think Atletico wins the group.
I could
see them getting second. I could see him, but I'm going to go Atletico wins the group. I think I'm going to go Lazio. I feel like I'm butchering that, but Lazio. I think they get second. I think Feyenoord gets third and Celtic gets fourth. But I wouldn't be surprised to see if Feyenoord get into second place. Feyenoord, won the Dutch league last year. Really strong team this year. Well, I think Lazio is going to have a little too much class. So I'm going to go Real
Yeah.
Madrid. I'm going to go not Real Madrid. Atletico Madrid, Lazio, Feyenoord, Celtic.
Yeah, this one I'm gonna completely agree with you. The exact same order.
Now, the next group, I think we are going to disagree
Here we
on.
are. It's the group of death. I
This
don't know.
this is one of the
will we
toughest
disagree?
groups I can think of.
It's probably one of the
I think-
toughest groups ever drawn in the past few years. There have
Yeah,
been some group
I
of
would
death,
s-
but this is really is one of the strongest Champions League groups in recent times. It's
Yeah, I mean, you're
insane.
talking about pretty much all powerhouses. I mean, all were what top 3 in their respective leagues. Dortmund
Has-
bottled, so they were
has
second.
PSG has PSG made the finals? So you got like 3 teams who were basically like near semifinals and
PSG
finalists
made the
in the
finals.
last decade. So you got
PSG made the
semifinal and
final.
finalists in the last decade, all in the same group.
Yeah, so you have Dortmund who finished second, pretty much bottled the league. PSG who won their league. AC Milan who made it to the semifinals of last year's Champions League, and Newcastle, a newcomer into the Champions League after being gone for a very long time, but they're now some people say a powerhouse in the Premier
State-owned.
League.
They're getting there.
Yeah, so I think honestly the toughest group last year doesn't even compare to this year, because last year you had that Bayern, Barca, Inter, and then whoever the fuck was the 4th team. But now this you got like all.
There is no whoever the fuck. I mean, Newcastle's supposed to be the whoever the fuck, but that's not how it really is.
I think Dortmund. I think Dortmund gets 4th. I think they just don't have enough. If they said Bellingham and like Haaland on this team, then yeah, but no, they don't. And then who knows if Gio Reyna is going to be healthy to play in these Champions League games. So I think they get 4th. This is where we disagree. I know it's an unpopular opinion. I think Milan tops the group. I think Newcastle gets 2nd, and PSG gets grouped and sent to Europa League.
Yeah,
here's why.
Disagree.
I think AC Milan, I really like the way they're building that team. I think they've looked really good so far in Serie A. They've looked really solid. This was a team who, like I said, they were really competitive in Champions League last year. And I think they're just getting better. I think Rafa Leao on the other side, if he can stay consistent and look really good, like the dude he's obviously the MVP of Serie A. Like the dude is one of the best players in the world. You have Christian Pulisic who looks rejuvenated, even though he's playing on the opposite side than he normally does. He still looks better than ever. You got Theo Hernandez behind Leao at the right back, at the left back. Those two combining just look so good. And then you got Giroud who has 4 goals in 3 games. Like, come on, give me AC Milan to win this. I like them a lot. Newcastle, I think Newcastle just has a lot of firepower. Tonali's going back to Milan. They haven't looked good in the Prem. They started off looking pretty. I liked them against Man City, even though they lost. But what is their last 4? I think they only have 1 win so far, I believe. So because of that, but correct. I do think they have a lot of quality to get them to 2nd in advance. A lot of people have PSG winning this group hands down. And I find that a little odd, because I say the thing with PSG is that you're getting in with a new manager in Luis Enrique, which I think he's kind of building something there. But you have that French front 3 that I don't know like how they're going to perform. Obviously, you know what Mbappe is going to bring. But like you have that new guy who came from Germany, I believe. I've never heard of him, and they just paid like 90 million euros for him. Never heard of the guy. Apparently, he played really well for the French national team in the World Cup. I don't recall hearing about him. You have Dembele, which I'm a Dembele fan, but the dude never plays. The dude is so injury prone. And I am not, obviously I have bias because I'm Costa Rican. I want Navas to start, but like, I am not a fan of Donnarumma. I just do not think he's that great. And with these teams that these attacks he's about to go up against, dude's going to get cooked. I believe it. So I think PSG is going to be more of a next year project. I think just trying to like balance out all these new pieces and stuff, it might fit better than it did before, like with Messi and Neymar, because it seemed like they were just trying to combine stars and see what works. But yeah, I think PSG gets grouped. So I'm going AC Milan, Newcastle, PSG, and Dortmund. Yeah.
So we are
Disagree
going to
with me.
disagree.
Come at me.
We are going to disagree a little bit. I don't think PSG are getting bounced quite yet. I think Mbappe is good enough to just carry them, out of the group. It's just true. I do agree with Milan. I actually think that I agree. I just like the way they're built. So I'm going to pick Milan to win the group. I'm going to pick PSG to come in second. I'm going to pick Dortmund to get bounced to Europa League. And then I'm going to pick Newcastle to get dropped out. I actually
this is
think
coming from the Prem fan too.
Yes. And I know. I feel bad because Newcastle, I really don't hate. I mean, I don't hate them. They're like, you can't really hate people from like Newcastle area. It's like they talk similar to Manchester people, but they're not as dumb and fat.
I'm sorry to all the people out there, but man, that is an ugly ass accent. I'm sorry, but it is. I know you're gonna talk.
You're talking to you like Ray Hudson.
Yeah, but he's different.
Oh my god, he's the most Newcastle guy. He's the most Newcastle guy you're ever gonna fucking hear in your life.
I don't know, but anyways, yeah, that's crazy though. Like, I'm surprised you have Newcastle getting bounced over Dortmund.
Yeah,
not even
they're
making
good
Europa
defensively,
League.
but I don't think that's gonna help them in against these teams. And you know what, Dortmund? Yeah, I agree. They're not the same team, but it's such a difficult place to play. I think people underestimate that. Like,
I think just Dortmund's kind of on a rebuild.
I know they bottled the league last year, but that doesn't fucking mean the yellow wall's not going to show up. It's not easy.
I feel like losing Bellingham is huge.
Well, yeah, we're seeing that with Real Madrid. I think that's one of the reasons why I think Madrid, sometimes you never know year to year how they're going to be.
I'm just surprised coming from the Prem fan. I know a lot of Prem fans, they can't fathom the fact that one of the teams there are just not going to win everything.
It's an interesting four, You could,
because I've seen some delusional Prem fans that
you're missing out on some teams. I mean, Chelsea, they definitely don't deserve to be in the Champions League based on how they've been playing. But Liverpool, that's a big miss. They just had a hiccup. It wasn't really a horrible year. It was just they had some crazy hiccup in the beginning, and they couldn't recover from it. So like there's some teams that are missing here. I'm not going to say Tottenham are missing because they don't fucking belong in the Champions League to begin with. So, it's back to normal. So that's Group F. That's a spicy one. The last two gonna be
these
a lot easier.
So here
picking the bottom twos are gonna be hard. Group
G is Conference League. Group F is Europa League. I'll say it. So Group G, you have Manchester City. Red Bull Leipzig. I don't even know what this team is. Cervana Zavelsk. That's
their real name, but they're really called Red Star. It's Red Star Belgrade.
Yeah, I don't.
That's who they are.
And then you have the Young Boys. Young Boys are from Austria.
Just say Red Star Belgrade.
The Young Boys are from Austria, right?
Switzerland.
Is it Austrian or Switzerland? Okay, it's one of those. They're right next to each other.
I had to think about that for a second. Switzerland, yes.
Yeah, they're two close countries. So, obviously, City wins. I mean, this is like self-explanatory.
City destroys the group.
Red Bull gets second.
Easy second. Easy.
Dude, I don't even like. I don't know.
It's a fucking toss-up.
I don't know these teams enough to say who's going to get third and get Europa.
In and out of the Champions League every now and then.
Look, if we're just throwing it out there for the sake of throwing it out there, let's go Belgrade Red Stars and then Young Boys.
Yeah, I think Red Stars. I think that league's a little tougher.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm talking completely out of my ass. So.
I think the league in Serbia is a little tougher than the league in Switzerland. So
you think? I would say the Switzerland league is better. At least it's what I've heard. I don't know. I'd be honest.
I don't know. you'll have arguments. There's some good teams in Switzerland, so I can understand people getting mad at me for that one. But I think Serbia, that just the Balkans are tough. There's a reason why you always see them in World Cups doing some interesting things. They're some tough people. They don't produce nobody from their leagues. I mean, yeah, in Switzerland you got Zurich, you got Young Boys, Lugano. I've heard of. You got Basel. Everyone knows Basel. And the Grasshoppers, who could forget about the Grasshoppers? I got some funny names in Switzerland. It's fun. It's fun stuff. Fun stuff in Switzerland.
So let's hit this final group. We have Barcelona, Porto, Shakhtar Donetsk, home of our one boy Sergei Christoph, and then Antwerp. So I'm going to go pretty much in the order that I just said it. So I'm thinking Barcelona finally got lucky with the group, and they're finally going to make it out of the group stage, even though I do not think they're good enough. If Barcelona would go fourth if they were in Group F. Barcelona, I think they got really blessed with a very good group. Huh?
Even with Newcastle in there, you think they're
Barcelona's not. I mean, we'll see with this whole new João Felix thing, which we could talk about next week once they get to play like a full game.
Yeah, okay, I think we want to see that happen.
And João Cancelo. So we'll see how that kind of works out, down the road. But yeah, Barcelona tops it. Porto, from what I understand, Porto's in a little bit of a rebuild mode, but they're still a better team. I still rate them higher than the Ukrainians. Shakhtar, who's always at the top, are always making Champions Leagues.
Yeah,
but they can never really progress in Champions Leagues.
The only other argument is Dynamo Kiev, and they're struggling in this beginning part of the season. So it's not like Shakhtar Donetsk has a challenger, because Kiev is always their challenger.
And Antwerp, they're just going to get last. And I'm probably butchering that name too, but they're just going to get last. I will say it's going to be pretty fucking awesome to see Barcelona play in Shakhtar. Like, that's going to be, because that's like a notorious, like extremely like tough place to play.
Do you know what's going on in Ukraine right now? They're not playing in Ukraine.
No. Where are they playing at?
They're going to play in Poland probably.
You don't think there's going to be people traveling?
There's a fucking war. They're not. You
don't think there's going to be people traveling? You know how many refugees have been leaving Ukraine to go to Poland? They're going to fill that shit up, dude. They're going to fill it up.
Yes, you're right. Okay. And I know this because my grandma has been mentioning it. She's like, I hear it. Like, it used to be like, you ride the subway and it's like, yeah, everyone's speaking Polish or whatever. Now you start hearing these languages and you're like, what the fuck is that? And you look and they're like, oh, Ukrainian.
Dude, I think they're gonna fill that shit up, dude. I'm telling you. Either way,
they have a lot, but yes, they're not playing in Ukraine because that's a nice arena they got.
I still think they're gonna fill it up. I think it's gonna be good, but nonetheless, yeah. I mean, do you have any disagreements with that? Barcelona, Porto, Shakhtar, Antwerp.
I do not. Shakhtar. I wouldn't be surprised if they like pull off a shock upset against Porto. But
I'm with you there.
I agree with you. I think Porto, you know what, and I think it's a safe bet because they've started this season pretty well. They're 3 wins, 1 draw, only 4 games in, but it's still you want to start strong in your league to really prove or just show, like, hey, like we have a chance, especially in a group where, if you're being realistic, other than Barcelona, it's anybody's game. Like even Antwerp, who knows how good they are, although I don't think they'd be better than Porto or Shakhtar. So I agree with you there, but not surprised if Shakhtar, surprise some people.
Yeah, I never know how I really feel about the Belgium league. Like, I don't know, like a part of me feels like the Belgium league's a little like overhyped, but I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it depends year to year. So I guess before we end this, let's do a quick pick. Who's gonna win it?
Ooh, the whole thing?
Yeah, who's the early favorite you think is gonna win this Champions League? Nobody's gonna like my answer, but it's just
no one's gonna like my answer. It's probably gonna be City.
All right, then why even ask this question? I hate to be the bearer of bad news. We both think it's going to be City.
All right, let's say our dark horse. I don't even want to say dark horse, but like outside of
not City.
City's the favorite. Okay, City's the favorites. Outside of City being the favorites to win it, who else do you have?
Real Madrid. They're always
Really?
good in the Champions League.
No striker, man. That worries me. We'll see how
It
that
does
plays
worry
out
me.
in this
But I
Champions
don't
League
know. They've hit gold with
because
Bellingham.
but
But they
Benzema's
have.
yeah, but he's not. I mean, I don't know unless Bellingham can prove that he's going to be an attacking midfielder. But I don't know because he's always said he's like I'm a central midfielder. He's like I'm an 8. He's like I box to box, and like
I think right now because of how
I mean at the end of the day he's
cloud
not a
he's riding.
striker. I mean, Vinny says he wants to be on the left. Vinny always plays it. He'll always drift to the left. Rodrigo's probably your best closest thing to a striker because he can kind of play that half space. But man, I don't know. I mean, I don't unless they do some sort of transfer in the winter
I
transfer
just
window,
think that
some sort of
Bellingham right now,
loan.
he doesn't care about the position. I think right now he's riding such a high mentally with the fans. You know, they love him and he's just enjoying his football and he's so happy to be contributing right away for Real Madrid. He seems right at home. I think he doesn't really care too much about specifics as long as he's not playing goalie. I think he's fine. So that's why I'm not worried about it. I think especially going into the Champions League, you know, it's not like he's never played in the Champions League. He knows what it's like with Dortmund, but now with Real Madrid, this big powerhouse, you know, it's a whole new chapter.
We'll see.
So
We'll
that's
see
my
when they
dark
play
horse.
in
Who's
the
your
Champions
dark?
League.
Yes. Who's your dark horse?
I'm gonna go Bayern. I think Bayern
Good
put
one,
up the.
yeah.
I feel like Bayern choked that City matchup this past year.
And they could do it with Kane.
I think Bayern should have won it. Yeah, now you're adding Kane in that situation.
Yeah,
Like
they finally have a striker back.
he's not
Lewandowski, but he fills it. He fills that role.
I don't even want to say Bayern is a dark horse, but like if we're saying
it's hard to
City's
say that. But
by
yeah, if
far
we're
the
saying City's
favorites, it's like your toughest competition is going to be Bayern. And then outside of Bayern, Arsenal. I'm just
I know it's hard to say. I know it's they don't have good history in the knockout rounds, but you look at some of these teams, and if they get favorable draws, they could, 2 legs, they could do well.
So like my odds for 1, 2, and 3 is going to be City, Bayern, Arsenal. I just unless Real Madrid can pull out some sort of.
I would say it would probably be City, Madrid, Bayern.
You have Madrid over Bayern?
Yeah. If they get, let's put it like this: if both of them are in the quarterfinals, yes, 100%.
If they match up, you would take Madrid over Bayern.
Or if they just both get into the quarterfinals, not even if they match up, if they both end up in the quarterfinals, I think the Madrid have proved that they got it and they'll be fine. That's what I think personally.
Yeah. I think I like Arsenal over Madrid, honestly. I think Arsenal is really well built. I don't know about Kai Havertz, dude. But outside of him, like, I don't know. I mean, we'll see when they match up in the Prem. You know what I mean?
Like Fabio Vieira has been playing very well, and he's kind of like considered the backup, but the young guy, coming out of Portugal.
I think Nketiah has been playing well. If he could just be a little bit more clinical, I think he could really dominate. I've noticed in the past few games he's done a really good job of getting chances, like opening up and like making the runs to get the chances.
He's always been good at that. I think that's why Arteta
just needs to be more clinical. He just needs to be more clinical. It's the biggest.
And then again, that's the story of Arsenal's life.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Arsenal hasn't played super tough. I mean, they've played Nottingham, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Man United, which who knows how good they're going to be. So we'll see when we see Arsenal play against City, and they're going to play against City October 8th. I feel like that's going to be a pretty big measuring stick for them.
100%.
But so let's end it off there. Episode 17 of Real Fans FC. I thought it was a good one. Me and Adam love our predictions. We love them.
We knew we had to give most of our time to the Champions League today. didn't really time it exactly, but I think most of our time went to the Champions League if we're looking single topic.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more excited for this Champions League than last year. I think there's a lot of really good groups where I feel like last year we had a better idea who's who outside of that Bayern, Inter, and Barca group. But I think there's a lot of really good groups. I'm really excited. A lot of fresh new faces: Newcastle, Arsenal, PSV, Union Berlin.
All I'm gonna say is I'm excited because I don't have to watch Thursday League anymore. Feels nice. So I'm into it.
But yeah, so if you guys haven't done so already, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. And yeah, follow us on all our platforms. And obviously we're on anywhere you get your audio podcast. So if you want to see the audio version, go on Spotify, go to Apple, Stitcher Podcasts, you know where to go. But peace out, everybody. See you guys next week.